Ever been in the situation where you've applied for a job, you think, this is fantastic, even better, you manage to get an interview. The interview goes really well, things, you've almost got it in the bag, you think, and then they say, hey, we're just going to check on your references, and then you don't get the job, leaving you thinking, what on earth did my referee say? Well, hey, making sure in particular that we do some due diligence when selecting our verbal referees. Tom O'Neill from cv.co.nz. Tom, kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora, good morning, my friend.
It is a fun situation to be in, and hey, we've talked about CVs and how to present at interviews and all those sorts of things, and look, that will get you so far. But if you've got a stinker for a verbal referee, it can all come undone pretty quickly, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Your CV, your interview, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, all that stuff is only as good as your verbal referees, mate.
And honestly, you don't want to be too paranoid or too controlling about this. You don't want to be coaching them too much. You need to be able to say, hey, look, here's my verbal referee. Ask them anything. But you need to have perhaps a close enough relationship with this individual to make sure that that you're going to get at least a positive spin on your working relationship with them, right?
Oh, look, 100%. And there's a really good way to ask for a referee if they want to be a reference, a verbal reference. A good way to say that is, Andrew, look, would you be comfortable giving me a positive verbal reference? That way it gives them an out in a way, and it opens up the dialogue for an honest conversation. I didn't do that once and asked a referee, will you be my referee? And she said, yeah, sure. And then next thing, I had a recruiter, thankfully it was a friend of mine, said, whatever you do, do not use that person as your referee. Because she was just slagging me off. But I was like, what?
Wow.
Hey?
And honestly...
Yeah, I was absolutely devastated.
And hey, great news that you got a little bit of an inside track, because for most people, it's like, what on earth happened? It seemed to be so good at the interview.
Everything
was fine. Maybe
right through the process.
Maybe there was a much better candidate than me, and you end up beating yourself up for no reason. I mean, not often that you get feedback as to why you were unsuccessful. Not often that you get an inside track on saying, yep, don't pick that referee. That information doesn't usually circle back.
A lot of HR people won't necessarily tell the truth as well in terms of why the verbal reference process. It's easy for them to go, look, we had a candidate who better fit the bill, rather than, we spoke to so-and-so and that person got a bad reference. Because obviously then the balloon goes up, the candidate goes crazy and all heck breaks loose. So it's easier, unfortunately, for an HR person to say, look, we just chose someone else.
The tricky thing is, though, that you also want a verbal referee who has got some skin in the game. If you are applying for a new job, chances are something went wrong or something was less than ideal at your last job, and yet you're wanting to ask somebody who is senior to you at your last job to be your referee. You can see where this gets a bit sticky, Tom.
Oh, look, 100%. I mean, I always try and think about, the friend boss, the boss you may have lunch with, or you get on well with, and that sort of person. That's the ideal. That's the ideal person, because they have positive relationship with you personally in some respects, and so they want the best for you realistically in terms of having skin in the game. So bearing that in mind, it's just really making sure that where possible, you can do that. I mean, realistically, not every employment situation ends as a negative. I mean, a contract may finish. You may just decide, look, I really enjoyed it here, but it's time to move on for a new opportunity. And so really trying to track down, 2 to 3 former bosses, ideally, who, have been, you've worked for and are happy to, say some positive stuff. There'll be some ones that are probably more positive. You have a more friendly relationship with them. Put those first, because the recruiter will tend to start at 1 and work their way down to 3. And if they get 1 and 2 good, they'll probably just stay there. So,
No, that's good to have and good to offer choices there. So what would your thoughts be? Make it go back a couple of steps in your career path rather than saying, hey, let's put my current boss's name down as a verbal referee? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, you ideally never want to put your current boss down unless they know you're looking for a job. So if they know that you're looking for a role and you get on well with them, great, fantastic. But, some recruiters will try and push for a current referee and your current boss.
Yep.
I find that really terrible and unethical, to be fair, because effectively you're now letting the cat out of the bag just for a potential chance of getting a job.
Yeah.
So two things there. Firstly, if you now let your boss know you're looking for a new opportunity, that's going to cause a fractious relationship to some extent, no matter how great you and your boss get on with. What I mean there is you're not going to get put forward to go to that conference in Sydney in February.
Yep.
You're not going to get asked to do that training course, that's going to cost $2,000, because you're going to move on.
Yeah.
So why would they invest in you in the future? So be careful when you let that employer know. But secondly, just push back. Say, look, I've given you some really good referees. I appreciate if you use those. But finally, if the recruiter keeps pushing for it, you can say, well, look, yes, but I'd only give you that person on a signed contract.
Yep.
So I would have a signed contract, employment contract, and then that reference would only be used for, performance management moving forward, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, if you're down to the last three, you've only got a 33% chance of getting the job.
Exactly.
So you don't want to throw away your future with your current employer for a 33% chance.
That is such fantastic wisdom, actually. If they're pushing for it, wait for a signed contract, and then it's fish or cut bait time, really, isn't it, for the job that you're going for? How much do they really want you? And not just sort of, hey, I'll do whatever I can to get this job, including, because I imagine if the first your boss finds out about you looking for work is another company, perhaps even a competitor, phoning him to ask for a reference, you're not going to get a great reference, are you?
Oh, no, you're not. It's going to be a debacle, and so you really need to make sure all your referees understand, A, that you're wanting a reference, but also B, the recruiter needs signed authority, the HR person needs signed authority to contact them. But, realistically, with all this sort of stuff, you just want to make sure you're protected, realistically, at the end of the game, at the end of the day. Making sure you are protected for your career, both current and future opportunities. So, in that respect, really just trying to order it in the hierarchy. Your current boss is sort of more high end.
Yep.
You ideally don't want to go to colleagues. That's someone, that, you worked alongside. Certainly don't want to use mum, even though mum's lovely. End of the day, has zero credibility in terms of your work style, even though.
Exactly.
So again, just trying to find that balance and just be open and honest as and where you can, and try and get the ducks in a row.
Just finally on this one, how much coaching would you give, if any, just to make sure you're on the same song sheet? Would you ideally have a conversation with the person that you're putting forward as a referee and saying, hey, this is what I'm going for, this is what is that important? Because I can imagine the nightmare scenario where you're listing on your CV, this is my experience and these are my skills, and the verbal referee just totally negates all of that. I mean, you don't want to tell them what to say, but at the same time, you want to be on the same song sheet, right?
Well, look, this is true. It's a tricky one because what you want to be able to do is make sure that, they are on the same song sheet. Problem is, you're going to be applying, they may be being a referee for 5, 6, 10 jobs, realistically. And I mean, and every time a recruiter says, hey, look, can we have your referees? Do you now phone up your, a boss 2 bosses ago and say, hey, look, blah, 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 So it gets a bit tricky. What I'd do is if there was a real job I was super keen on, like, really, really passionate about, that's when I'd probably phone them up and say, look, thanks again for being my referee. Look, I've got this one role. It's really exciting. And just talk with you briefly through it. 30 seconds, a minute, sharing what they're looking at. and making sure that, there's an alignment with yourself and in terms of just re-communicating that to the employer. To some extent, they're an employer, chances are they're pretty smart. So hopefully they'll be able to do that organically. But they should know the types of roles you're going for anyway. It shouldn't be a surprise. I'm going for the job of astronaut. Okay. Yeah.
But again, this could backfire if you're attempting to micromanage how your former manager gives your verbal referee. Then maybe there's some other issues upstream, which circles back to making sure you're picking the right verbal referee. Tom, wonderful wisdom and advice as always. Thanks for what you do. Of course, for people that are on the job hunt at the moment, cv.co.nz is a great place to start. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for your time today.
Real pleasure. God bless. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.